Captain V from AllPro, and I want to shoot this quick video about flutter spoons and striped bass. There's been a lot of people have been contacting me, asking me about how to use the spoon and when to use the spoon. And since we created our own mold that we make these spoons, we developed a reputation of providing one of the better or the best spoon on the market. I want to go over it with you. So this here is the AllPro XTR25. It's a 9-inch flutter spoon. It's 5 ounces. Now, there's a lot of spoons on the market, so let's just go over the spoons in general. There's a lot of good spoons, and yes, you're basically either paying for a name or for quality. Sometimes you're paying for both. So let's go over quality because we all know the great names out there, but let's go over quality. If you're buying a flutter spoon, especially for striped bass, you want to make sure that flutter spoon has an S bend in it. If you look at this spoon closely, you can see it's not a flat spoon. It's actually a bend in the spoon. We call it an S bend. Now, the whole purpose of that is it provides a lot more fluttering action as it goes through the water column, as you free spool that spoon down to the strike zone area. A lot of spoons you'll see on the market are flat spoons, straight spoons. Those spoons, although will flutter, they also have a greater tendency to spin. For some reason, striped bass prefer something that's fluttering, that looks like an injured fish, than something that's spinning down into the water column or spinning to the left or to the right. So it's important. If you go out, if you don't buy an AllPro spoon, you want to buy another manufacturer spoon, that's cool with me. Just make sure it has that S bend. The other thing you want to do is, because these spoons are expensive, they're $20, $25, $28. You want to make sure you're buying a spoon that's made from high quality materials. The vast majority of these spoons either come out of Asia, China, Korea, Malaysia, and they'll use a lesser quality stainless steel. You want to make sure A, it's stainless, and B, it's a high quality stainless. Because if you use a low quality stainless, yes, you can put stainless on the packaging. However, you're going to see surface rust almost immediately. So make sure you get a reputable high quality spoon. So this way you're not throwing your spoons away every season. These spoons should last you season after season. Especially all you have to do is water them down. If they're a good quality spoon, just hose it down and you're good to go. Other features about a spoon you want to look into and look for. You want a spoon with a dual rotating swivel. As you see, this swivel here, okay, if I hold the swivel here like this, and it will spin. If I hold the bottom of the swivel, the top will also spin. I know it's kind of tough to get that on camera, but it does. There you can see the top spinning there. This is a very expensive stainless steel swivel. Okay, a lot of manufacturers won't use that. You want that. Pay the extra $1 or $2 and make sure you get that for a couple of reasons. One, as you're fluttering that spoon over and over, you don't want your line to wind up and twist up on you. Number two, you don't want a fish to use the spoon as leverage against you as you're bringing that fish in and throw the spoon. So it's real important that you get a spoon with a dual rotating swivel. If you notice, we take it one step further and we put a dual rotating swivel on the hook as well. We want to make sure that when you get that fish, you're going to get it to the boat. And that dual rotating swivel here takes away all leverage that fish has. You might notice something a little different about this spoon. AllPro creates, develops, designs, and manufactures their own mold. And therefore, we make this particular spoon. We call these ribs. Sometimes we refer them to as stabilizing ribs or swimming ribs, you may hear me say on occasion. What does that do? Well, I learned from years of making spoons that when you fish them, which they're made to fish vertically, these Flutter spoons, the 9-inch spoons, if you don't get a hit right away, they will scope out on you. And after they scope out, you reel them in to reset them vertically. Well, the problem with that is I noticed when I was running my charters and I was reeling it back to the boat, the spoons would spin coming back to the boat. And for some reason, striped bass will not hit a spinning spoon. So we make a fluke spoon. It's a 4-inch spoon made for fluke in high current waters, and it swims. And our spoon was designed with these ridges on them. So after many attempts, designs, and molds, we finally came up with a spoon that when it scopes out and it's more horizontal now than vertical, and you reel it in, the spoon will swim back to you. Just gives you another opportunity, another chance of getting a bass. Some people use it as when they're reeling it in, they'll actually free spool it right back and kind of jig a little bit and then reel it in. All different applications. It's depending on the conditions that you're in, the speed of the drift, how fast you're drifting, where the bait is, what you're marking on your screen. But be free to use your imagination and to use the spoon different ways, because it's a reliable spoon that will swim back to you and also flutter in a vertical application. Now, how do you use the spoon? Well, first, how do you target striped bass? You'll see a bunker pod. We're going to talk about bunker pods. Sometimes you don't see a bunker pod, you just, pick up the fish on your finder. In that case, you're going to drop it down and we'll go over the same application. But I want to give a little tip regarding when you find that bunker pod. So you got that bunker pod there and you see the bunker pod's moving in this direction. A lot of guys will go and get in front of that bunker pod thinking that that bunker pod's going to come right to them and they're going to be able to cast into it. Well, I have learned, and listen, someone could say something else and it may not be wrong. This is my experience. It works for me. I like to fish the back end of the bunker pod. I don't get in front of the bunker. I get behind the bunker because the striped bass are swimming behind the bunker. They're following the bunker. They're not ahead of the bunker. And yes, on occasion, they're directly under them. But for the most part, the school of striped bass are following the bunker, especially if they're not feeding. If they're feeding, they are tighter to the bunker and they're up and maybe under the bunker. You'll notice when they really are feeding, they come up on top and you see all that action. You see the birds dive and everything else. That's a different situation. I'm trying to get you on fish before it's absolutely apparent that they're feeding. Because when they're feeding, you can probably throw a hot dog in there and catch a striped bass. I'm trying to show you how you could target striped bass and get them to bite when they're not actively feeding or aggressively feeding. So I like to look at the bunker pod, and let's say the bunker pod is moving this way. What I like to do is get behind the bunker pod with my boat and I flip my spoon. You really can't cast these things a great distance because of their design. But I use bait casters. And why do I use a bait caster? A lot of people will use spinning reels, and that's fine. If you're comfortable with that, if that's what you got, that's good. Works for you, great. The line does come off a spinning reel much faster than it does a bait caster. So if that's what you're looking for, especially if the current's kind of quick and you want to get this down, yeah, definitely use a spinning reel. I like using a bait caster because I control the free spool much more effectively than a line just coming off of a spinning reel. And then I got to grab it with my finger, it slips, cut my finger, whatever it may be. With a bait casting reel, I keep my thumb on the spool and I can free spool it. I want to lock it up and jerk it. I can do that. So that's why I use bait casting reels. So now I'm getting towards the back of that bunker pod and I flip it into the bunker pod and I let it start dropping. As it gets about 15 feet down. Let's say I'm fishing 60 feet water. Gets about 15 feet down or so, I give it a good jerk. Then I drop it down a little bit, and I give it another jerk. And then I free spool again, give it another little jerk. And I kind of keep doing that until it gets to the bottom. And I'll feel it hit the bottom. And when it hits the bottom, it's 1, 2, 3. And then I free spool it back down. 1, 2, 3. And I yank on it. And I create that fluttering action. Because the spoons will flutter. They'll dart as you pull them, but they flutter as you free spool it back down. Now, normally, if you're right on those fish and those fish are feeding, you'll get hooked up right away. You're going to feel it. Boom. It's going to almost feel like you just got hit, you're stuck on the bottom. However, on occasion, you won't get hooked up right away, and it will, scope out on you. And now you're away from that vertical, and now you're more in a horizontal, and that's time to reel it up, reset, and drop. But here's the trick. This is a teaser. It's not a bucktail. It looks like a bucktail, but it's literally a teaser. This teaser here weighs nothing. It's grams. And what we do is about 24 to 30 inches on my leader line. I make a drop loop just about 3 inches off the main line. And there's plenty of videos online that show you how to make a drop loop. It takes you about 30 seconds to do. And we put this on the drop loop. Now, that makes it appear that this is chasing this, and that fish understand. And a lot of times when they're not aggressively feeding, but they're there and they see an easy food source and they see this chasing it, you're going to catch more bass on the teaser than on the spoon. It activates the bite. This is called the Feather Pro. We make it. There's other teasers on the market that I'm sure work just as well. But this is the Feather Pro. It has a 6.0 mustad hook on it. You don't put any bait on that. You don't put any bait on this. And you fish them about 24 to 30 inches above on a drop loop. Very effective. You're going to thank me, email me, thank me and send me photos when you start hooking up with fish that you were and everyone else is coming up empty. Now, as for fishing striped bass, there's more than one way to skin the cat, and you have to be prepared. You have to have a snag hook on board because they may just want live bunker that day, and you have no choice but to snag, put a circle hook on, and drop that bunker down. And sometimes you have to put a trolling sinker on it or a drail to get it down. Sometimes it's more effective if you don't use any weight and just free line it, into and around the bunker pot and pull it a little bit. You'll find that real successful when the cobia around. The cobia will smack that. So you have to have that available, just like you have to have one of these on the boat as well. There are many occasions, maybe more than what you would think for sure, that the striped bass don't want the live bunker. They want something that really looks like it's struggling a lot more than that live bunker. And they will hit the spoon sometimes more than a live bunker. I've had many trips where we go out. I have one guy using a spoon, 3 people using all the bunker I have in the live well. They get one guy with the spoon is catching. Next thing you know, everyone's switching over to spoons, and I've got a whole live well of bunker that I'm bringing back to the dock. So don't let it fool you. Sometimes, even if there's live bait in the water, those bass, depending on how aggressive they're eating, especially if you put a teaser on them, are going to want to hit a spoon. The other spoon I want to talk to you about, because it's a little underrated. We came out with the spoon in 2024. This spoon is the FatCat. It has multiple applications. It's a great spoon to have on the boat. It's 6 inches, 4 ounces. You can see it's a bit wider. This spoon you can work as a vertical jig, just like this spoon, but you want to work it in shallower water, around 20, 25 feet. You can get away with 30 feet. Depends on the current, depends on the wind, how fast you're moving, because it gets down into the water column slower. So if your boat's moving faster and this is dropping slower, guess what? You're scoping out too fast and you're gonna have to reel it in and start over again. So that's why we like to keep this in shallow water. But why do we use this? Because of the multiple applications we can use it in. So for instance, let's say we're fluttering it. We're in 20, 30 feet of water, we're fluttering it. Boom, boom, we're hooking up, we're catching fish, great. But then the bite comes to the surface and they're hitting the bunker, they're feeding, the birds are diving. Well, you can't cast this out and the fish are no longer at the bottom as they're actively feeding on top. This now is a casting spoon. Yes, it still has that S curve in it, like I mentioned earlier about what you're looking for in spoons, okay? But it's designed where it's weighted in the back and you could cast this. I cast a baitcaster fairly well, not as good as a spinning setup, but fairly well. So I have no problem, flipping it out there, putting it into the pod, and then slowly, believe it or not, it's 4 ounces, it doesn't sink. The way it's designed, it's gonna stay up and it swims just like this. And you're gonna smash them. So it gives you that versatility when you're on the water. Instead of you looking for something to hook up and take off your spoon and do this and do that, you get away with just one of these here and you can flip and reel in. The other thing and application you want to use with this is if you're in the bay. And a lot of times the striped bass are in the bay, they're in the shoals, they're sitting down low right after the shoal or a sandbar. You drift over it, they're over here. What you do with this, it's now a spoon that you would free spool out and drag it, okay? And it becomes a drift spoon. And as you're drifting, you're pulling it. You might have 30, 40, 50 feet, 60 feet, depending on the water, 6 feet, 7 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and you're pulling it through. And then you're feeding it back. And because of the design, it's swimming like this. You're pulling it, it's gonna flutter a little bit. And then when you free spool, the weight's in the back and it goes back towards the fish. A very cool spoon to have on the boat. Nice little arsenal to have in the tackle box. It's called the FatCat. Something you should definitely consider. So you got the FatCat, you got this. One thing I want to mention is we do not normally use a teaser with the FatCat. The reason why is because of the various different applications that this may be used in a single day. And so we don't tie a drop loop in our line. This is effective. We also dress this hook up. It does have your dual rotating swivel up on top. The reason why we don't put it here is because you're casting it. Often if you cast it and it has a swivel on the hook's gonna foul grab your line and hook your line and foul hook your lure. You gotta reel in and reset. We learned that after many tests, and therefore we don't put that dual swivel on the hook. We put it just up here. So this way, when you are using it in a casting application, it's effective, it doesn't get tangled, and it's just a great lure to use. This is Captain V from AllPro. Go to allprotacklebox.com or visit your local tackle shops. Ask them for the XTR25 or the FatCat or any other spoon that they may have, and check it out to make sure it has that curvature that I'm speaking about. And give it a try. Visit our website, as I mentioned earlier, allprotacklebox.com. Emails on there, phone numbers on there. Give me a call, shoot us an email. If you have any questions at all, I'm here for you. Captain V, tight lines, let's get fishing.